Yeah. Okay. Uh, is everybody hearing me okay? All right. So I do want to make mention that the five folks I just um, read off here, Bob, Katie, Igor, Robbie, and myself, all of us have solar panels. And many of us are net zero with our solar panels. So, and it's fun to say that, especially in this day and age with the rapidly escalating natural gas and electricity prices. So let's move on. Okay, we're going to do a quick introduction to how these calculators were created. I think you need to know the process that I went through to build these so that you can examine the calculators yourselves and determine if they were done properly and also suggest changes. I will have a couple of case studies from Bob and Katie and myself to go through with you and to give you information and conclusions about how well these are actually going to return investments now without having the availability of federal IRA tax credits. We'll talk about property values and then a few more action steps that you can take, and I'll finish up the rest of the calculators with you. But before we start, one thing I'd like to do is find out what you're thinking about. So if all of you would either open up your smartphone or open up a browser window or basically scan the QR code or navigate to vivox.app, type in session number 458 320 240. If you would do that, I want to survey you on two questions to start and one question at the end. So let me get those questions up and start the session. Okay. So again, go to vivox.app on your smartphone or on another browser window. 458 320 240 is the ID for this particular poll. And I'm going to go ahead and open the first question. Here we go. You're going to have a minute to answer this question. So hopefully, does anybody need more time to get into vivox.app and type in 458 320 240. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, very interesting. 67% of you are not quite sure about upgrades this year. A couple up, 22%, no, not going to do any upgrades. And only 11% are saying, yes, you're going to do upgrades. So, all right. So, hopefully, we can affect or influence the folks that are not sure yet about doing upgrades with this particular class. So, that's excellent. Good to know that. Let's move on to question two. Fascinating. Okay. Again, about 60, two-thirds of you are somewhat hopeful that you'll be able to afford all these wonderful green beneficial electrification upgrades and electric vehicles, etc. And 22% are very hopeful and 11% not hopeful at all. So we'll take this same question poll at the end of this class and see if your attitudes or if anything has changed based on what you've learned. So let's key back to that PowerPoint and get started. Okay, so I want to tell you why I created this course. I think it's important for you to understand why I went about doing this. The picture you see here, actually the collage of pictures that you see here is my house. Okay. As you can see, over the past 6 years, exactly 6 years since 2020, I have installed ground source geothermal, air source heat pumps, solar panels, a heat pump dryer, a heat pump hot water heater, and I've had 2 rounds of insulation and air sealing work done on my home as well. Oh my God. Al. All right, so my home is now 100% all electric for daily operation. The only natural gas that I use is when we lose our Genie grid electricity due to a power outage, and I switch to a 22 kilowatt natural gas powered Generac home generator. So, bottom line, folks, over the past 6 years, I've effectively made our home into one giant beneficial electrification science experiment. Oh, did I mention I was a seventh, eighth grade science teacher for 10 years? I've also trained architectural and engineering firms on how to use accounting and project management software. So I got a science brain and an accounting mind. I put those two things together, and all the better to be able to inform you about the many, many benefits of decarbonizing your day-to-day lives, even in the face of massive headwinds with the current administration's basically focus on you know uh, climate and climate denialism. So let's take a deeper look. This picture is a playlist I have on YouTube, and it shows 4 videos. These are the latest recordings from the classes that Color Penfield Green has offered through the Penfield Recreation for the past 5 years. And I'm very, very proud. Robbie's on board today. I'm extremely proud of the work that we've done. We actually created a community campaign for electric vehicles and clean heating and cooling. And that campaign has actually earned grant money for the town of Penfield. We've installed some chargers, electric car chargers for that. So awesome work. But here's the key. For the entire years that we've done this, we always had the tax credits. Well, IRA tax credits came in 2022, but the point is we've always featured tax credits as an incentive for folks that were attending our class, and there have been hundreds of them over the past 5 years for purchasing these upgrades. So with the loss of the tax credits at the federal level, IRA, I just had to find out what would that do to the incentives to purchase these green home upgrades and electric vehicles. I had to know because it affects the work I do. And I want to show you here. I got to say, this is my favorite income tax form. Form 5695. Can you believe that? He actually loves an income tax. Well, I do, because I've used it. Part 1, Section 25D of this form allowed for 30% tax credits on solar, geothermal, battery, wind. I've used both geothermal and solar. In fact, yesterday was the last day to file your taxes. I didn't pay any taxes this year because I had a big fat 30% tax credit on my amazing 34 panel solar system. But that's a problem because these are gone. That's gone as of yesterday. You can't, it's over. Section 25C of that same form, and I've grown to know and love this form intimately. This is the one that allows for up to $3,200 a year for insulation, air sealing, windows, doors, skylights, electric panels, sub panels, on and on. So you could have staggered your energy efficient window and door installations over several years and continue to take $3,200 a year off your federal taxes. Gone. I'm sorry, folks. It's simply gone. You're too late. Yesterday was the last day, unless you filed for an extension. Okay. After the election in 2024, I had kind of an epiphany thinking, oh my gosh, it's possible that the tax credits for electric vehicles might disappear as well. So what I did is I purchased a Chevy Equinox, a 2025 Chevy Equinox. Now at the time, the retail was $43,295. The IRA tax credit, $7,500, nice. New York State kicked in $2,000. By the way, it still does. And the Chevy coughed up $5K. So my discounts were, $14,500 on this car, $28,795 out the door. And I got to tell you, a lot of other of my friends bought these Equinoxes as well. It was the third best-selling electric vehicle in 2025, behind two Tesla models. Well, guess what? The tax credit's gone. So does it still pay? Does it still make sense? Can you get an Equinox for a reasonable price and have it pay off? I had to know the answer to that question. I had gotten so lucky here buying one under $30,000. I knew that was going to cost justify. That was going to break even for me. So one of the things that I did here, and I started building my first return on investment calculator, and that is the one for electric vehicles. With the loss of the credits, it's why I really needed to know what would happen. I'm going to use this first scenario. Now we're good on time, but I'm going to do a deep dive into the first calculator. All 5 of the remaining calculators work in a very similar manner. By the way, I challenge you to download the calculators, download the I'll talk about this in a bit, the ChatGPT AI conversations I had to help me build them. Scrutinize my work, prove me wrong or prove me right. Send me new feature ideas. I am constantly improving these calculators, and we're going to need them for the rest of the time that we have this the headwinds against climate solutions, and we've lost the federal tax credits. We're going to need these to be able to cost justify these particular improvements, I think. So again, I'm going to go deeply into it, this first one, and then I will kind of be a little bit lighter in terms of analyzing the other calculators and letting you dig into them yourself. So what were some of the principles that I undertook to start building these calculators wherever possible? By the way, I have recorded 7 years of my home energy usage here at my home in Penfield. And that includes extraordinarily detailed data on how much electricity I've used by appliance. I actually have metering on my geothermal system, metering on my air source system, metering on my electric vehicle charging. So I have exact values day by day, literally day by day, as to how much electricity I've used. And that's the core of building these calculators. I wanted to make sure I had actual energy usage data. Also, in the calculators, I've been as conservative as possible in their assumptions, in the logic. I've been extraordinarily careful in choosing the equipment to compare. If you're not if you're not comparing apples to apples, then why are you doing the comparison? Okay. So you'll see that with this first example of the two different cars that I'm comparing. I could not have done this without artificial intelligence. It is an extraordinarily good research assistant. Okay. It decreased, I was building these calculators in December and January. It reduced my time to build all of the ones that you're going to see here today to about 200 hours versus, first of all, I could not have done these calculators without the use of AI. If you get AI popping right into Excel and you're stuck on a formula, and you can ask AI to interpret that formula and what should the correct formula be. Many times I would have been absolutely out of luck without using artificial intelligence. Now, on the other flip side, be very careful with artificial intelligence. That's what I've learned. Trust, but verify. ChatGPT is really good, but you've got to ask your prompts properly. You've got to question back. You've got to say, no, you're wrong on that. Okay? Don't ever rely on the calculators I'm providing to you here. Don't ever rely on them solely for your decisions. Consult with professionals. Use the calculators, and we're going to make new versions of them down the road that are even better, but use them as guidance to get you pointed in the right direction to ask the questions that you need to ask. So without further, let's take a deep dive into the calculator I created for the Equinox electric vehicle and the Equinox gasoline-powered particular vehicle. Okay, so once this spreadsheet comes up, and this is the one you're going to get. This is the one you're going to download. Notice across the bottom, we have multiple tabs. I'm starting with cars compared here. And on the left is the Equinox ICE internal combustion engine gasoline powered car. On the right is the Equinox EV. And guess what, folks? They're the same price. The Equinox EV has a dealer cash of $8,000. You could go there this afternoon and buy this car at $35,595. You could also go to Bob Johnson and buy the Equinox Active for front-wheel drive for $35,595. They're identically priced. That's nice. Okay. In here, I would challenge you to again, with this conservative comparison, what are the highlights of the active, the gasoline-powered car, and what are the highlights of the electric vehicle? AI helped me find those, but I happen to agree with them. They are directly comparable cars. Now, let me move to the next tab. So, by the way, most calculators are going to show you the equipment that we're comparing. So you can decide for yourself if it's a fair comparison, apples to apples. All of the calculators have a break-even analysis tab. So let's take a peek at this. I need to make mention that when you download these calculators, all of them are locked. The worksheets are locked, except for the areas where you can put your data entry. So for example, if I were to try to change this label field, Excel comes up and says it's locked. Well, I did that intentionally so that you couldn't just immediately mess up the calculator. Now, I've given you the password to unlock, but I'm telling you, the minute you unlock any of these worksheets and start to work with the formulas, you're on your own. Make backups so you can restore in case you mess up the calculations and the logic in these spreadsheets. So here I've entered the price of the gasoline-powered Equinox, the price of the EV. I've entered a $4.18 average price per gallon on gas. Oh, I wonder what's happening to gasoline over the next few months. Probably going up. I've entered a price from my own last bill at RG&E, 26.56 cents per kilowatt hour is what I paid last month. It hurts to say that, but that's what I paid. I've put in the the Equinox gasoline miles per gallon EPA, 319 range for the Equinox EV, 85 kilowatt hours of battery storage, and put in a factor for annual miles, a factor for maintenance, and on the gas-powered car, and a factor for maintenance on the electric vehicle. And I do have to state that maintenance on electric vehicles, everybody on our team in Color Penfield Green that has electric vehicles probably spent $20 in the last 2 years, $10 a year for inspections, and that's it, nothing else. Maintenance on electric. So this is very conservative. This $450 a year is very conservative. Anyway, you're free to change these numbers. If you download these calculators, have at it. Knock yourselves out. And I've added some other interesting things here. I've added inflation percentages, low, medium, and high. You can actually adjust the percentages for gasoline price increases, inflation, knock yourself out, and for electricity and for maintenance. You can escalate each one of those variables. And then I have down here a drop down where you can actually change to the low, medium, or high inflation scenario, and it will actually instantly adjust the graphs that you're seeing here. And that will affect your break even. Okay, so bottom line, the blue graph on top is with incentives, and thank you, New York. New York has continued its Drive Clean rebate. I love that. Thank you, Chevy, for an $8,000 discount on the EV. Gee, that almost equals the $7,500 from the IRA. I don't care. I'll take it. I can go buy this car tomorrow, this afternoon. I don't care. Oh, and I put in a field here. So you could price in a home charger, level 2. I paid $950 for my level 2 charger. And you should include that because you really kind of need that for your car. You should have one so that you can charge overnight. But the bottom line here on the top with the incentives is this is a no-brainer. This thing it doesn't break even. It earns you money the minute you drive it out as compared with a comparable gasoline-powered Equinox Active. Now, if there were no incentives whatsoever, is the graph below, there is a 4-year break-even period if there are no incentives at all, if there was no Drive Clean rebate and no Chevy rebate. So you can see the price here starts at 43, and then it breaks even with a gas-powered car over time. Okay, so that's how these work. That's how this particular one works. The next tab here, I've got to tell you this, there are a ton of cars now coming out that are under $30,000. The Bolt, the 2027 Bolt is one of them. $28,995 minus $2,000 for the Drive Clean rebate. You can get a gorgeous, wonderful, by the way, I had a Bolt for 4 years from 2020 to 2025. 2024. I had a Bolt, and they've added all the features I ever would have wanted if I had bought another Bolt. So the well-equipped one is $32,400, and with minus $2,000 from the Drive Clean is $30,400. It's a no-brainer. This is a great little car, 262-mile range. The features are located on this tab. And one thing I should show you, every calculator has a calculations worksheet. Do not touch this unless you're going to unprotect it and add in more calculations of your own. But this is where all the hard work is done. And you can examine the calculations out over the range of years that I've included here. So that's a deep dive into this calculator. I've explained it, and you can download it and use it yourself. So let's move on. So my conclusions are absolutely electric vehicles can pay for themselves now in 2026. I needed to know that without the IRA $7,500 rebate. In fact, as I mentioned, the Equinox makes you money the minute you drive it off the lot compared to a comparable Equinox gas vehicle. So yeah, I know. Chevy's giving you $8,000. Nice. So what? That's awesome. Okay, and there's lots of cars coming out in 2026 in the 30K range. Uh, Basically, I think Tesla's going to bring out a car in a lower price range in the mid 30s. Let's see what else. Well, obviously the Bolt is one, the Equinox is one, and so forth. So the other good news here, folks, is EVs have depreciated so fast that thousands of them are coming on the market after leases or used cars with low mileage, and you can make a killing on buying a used EV. It is, in my humble opinion, the news is good about electric vehicles. You can purchase one that actually will pay for itself as compared with a gasoline powered vehicle. So I can take a question or two, not a lot because we've got a lot to cover, but a question or two before we move on. Anybody have a critical question about electric vehicles before we move on to the next calculators? Okay. All right. Let's continue on. Now, thanks to Katie Rigg and Bob Knauer, we have two additional case studies. Now, these are a little bit different. These are not going to be quite so advantageous at the outset, but we will talk about how they become more advantageous. So Katie Rigg replaced her natural gas furnace and electric air conditioning system. She replaced that with a geothermal water furnace system. So let's take a look at her return on investment scenario. And again, there's always a tab. The white fields allow you to put the numbers in. She paid $41,400 for the system. New York kicked in $86.50, taking it to $32,750. Then New York has come out with, thank you, New York. It's a theme throughout every calculator. Thank you, New York, for rescuing us. New York has upped the tax credit on geothermal systems from $5,000 to $10,000. So you can take a $10,000 tax credit from New York State. Awesome. So her out of pocket was $24,500. Now, a gas powered system comparable is about 14. So we're shy about $10,000. Okay. And I want to point out that Katie is including actual data, her real system kilowatt hour usage after the system was installed and their pre-geo system electricity and gas usage. She does conversions here to make them equivalent. So how many kilowatt hours are in a therm of gas, for example? So I'm not going to go into the details of those calculations, but that's really what we're doing here is conversions to get them to be equal. Let's look at the break-even summary now. As I told you, it doesn't look real good here. Okay. I've included the price of gas, natural gas per therm from a bill a month ago, last month, and the price of electricity from my own bill March 19th. So I'm using real numbers. You can use any number you want in the white fields. You can simulate whatever inflation you want for natural gas or electricity. And you can include or exclude the IRA. Now, if I include a 30% IRA, notice the geothermal system starts off equivalent to the natural gas, and then it scales up because the price of electricity goes up faster than the right now the price of a therm of natural gas is quite low and we know because of the war in Iran that's going to be increasing, but it really doesn't take us to where we need to do to get a break even. Now, if I up the price of natural gas to say $2, let's just play with that. Notice how the curve starts to bend there. Okay, and it gets closer and closer. Actually, it comes very close to break even. But the real break even, and this is another theme that you're going to see throughout, the real break even is if you put in solar panels. Katie Rig, the Rig household produces all of their electricity, all of it each year. They're net zero. So if I say, yes, my home produces 100% of our electricity from solar panels, boom, we get a break even in 10 years. And this is another theme. Thank you, New York State, for your tax credits. I love it, and rebates. And thank you, solar panels, for making all of this possible. The Rig family, the Hibner family, the Knauer family, the Meta family, the Orlovich family, the folks that are using solar panels are making out like bandits. Okay, they're paying for all of their fancy toys. Let's go back to no here. Yes, it doesn't start out right away showing a break even, but there's ways to make this much better. So let's look at Katie's conclusions real quick. You can't get in a geothermal system is costly. Yes. You can't get a break even from minute one. No, you can't. And the reason is we don't have a price on fossil fuels that reflects the damage to the environment. We don't have a carbon price. If we did, the return on investment would be much more possible right out of the box. But Katie has come to the conclusion, regardless, she has no regret. She loves her system. It's comfortable. It allows them to have a warmer home in the winter, cooler in the summer. It's quiet. It's safer. There's no carbon monoxide potential, no nitrous oxide, no particulate matter for her children. It supports grid reliability because it's so efficient. It's 5 times more efficient than basically any other system. So air conditioning, you can use air conditioning, but you're using a lot less electricity in the summer. It's very efficient. Plenty of capacity in the winter. And if you throw in solar, you are good to go. Bottom line. Now we're going to do an air source heat pump system with Bob Knauer. Let's take a look at it. This is similar, but it's a little bit different. Okay, so I would point out to you again the system specs sheet that we start with. This is the equipment we're comparing. Bob Knauer purchased a new air source heat pump system a couple of years ago. And it's a 40,000 BTU air source heat pump. I'm comparing it to a comparable Goodman 40,000 BTU natural gas furnace and air conditioning system, electric air conditioning system. So the comparables are spot on, spot on. So he's put in his home comfort inputs, his average system monthly use for electricity with the air source system. This is the equipment he purchased. And now we start into the actual data entry of the purchase, how much he spent on the air source system, the clean heat rebate from New York State. Thank you, New York. The tax credit from New York. Thank you, New York. His out of pocket was $7,000 out of pocket. A comparable gas furnace AC system's about $14K installed, a good quality one. And I'm not going to go through all of these values. You need to research. I've actually defined in comments what a lot of these values are and how we created these calculations. Okay. I don't have time to go through that. You can check our work. Now, if you go to the break even, take a look at what happens. The system, the air source heat pump starts out much lower than the gas furnace. By about year 7 or 8, it crosses. And because of the artificially, we think, low price of natural gas, and that's going to be going up here. RG&E generates 50% or more of its electricity using natural gas. So both electricity and natural gas prices are slated to go up over the next X years. You can put in your inflation factors, and the story is a little bit different from geothermal. The curve's a little bit more favorable. For the first 8 years, you're ahead for the first 8 years using an air source heat pump system. Then it starts to pull apart here because of the low price of natural gas. Okay, and there's the cost projections as I stated before. Now, if we again, Bob produces all of his power from 72 solar panels, and that's insane. I mean, if you look at producing the electricity on your own, you're starting out at $7,000 for the system, and you're just raking in the cash compared to not having solar panels. And I'm coming to a point on that in a couple of minutes. Okay, continuing on. So bottom line, you saw the break even there. There wasn't really a break even. There was a point where for about 8 years, the cost of the air source was less than the cost of the natural gas system and AC electric system. Bob makes the point that air source heat pumps now, the most current models can operate down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. And I got to confirm that. I've got an air source heat pump behind me that worked beautifully in that 6 degrees, -2 degrees. It was great down here in my production studio. He reminds you to have an audit done. He reminds you that because air source heat pumps don't heat the air coming out of the vents as much, they run continuously, that the humidity stays higher than with a natural gas system. That's a strong benefit from his perspective. And finally, if you add in solar, it's a slam dunk. Net zero, you're paying all your cost of electricity. Speaking of solar panels, I can't wait to get here. I'm going to analyze my system as compared with and without the credit, the IRA credit. So let's take a look at this calculator. All right, here's my system again. This is my actual system. My net out-of-pocket cost was $21,350. Here's the break-even analysis. And with the IRA credit, which I did receive, okay, with that credit, I will break even on my system within 7 years. And over 25 years, the solar panel system I put on my house will generate $75,000 in cold hard cash. Unbelievable. Now, without the IRA tax credit, we'll break even in 10 years and we'll produce a profit of $63,500. Give me a break. Okay. You could even finance it. I've got down here an insurance calculator. Let's say I borrow, I pay 20, let's say I borrow $20,000. What happens is now, and I run it for 10 years at a home equity line of credit rate of 6.25. I've got an amortization table here that actually shows you what will happen with your homeowner's equity loan. And it adds in the cost of the interest to the cost of the solar panels. I still break even 9 years. I break even if I borrow the money, and then 12 years if I borrow the money. So, and I make $56,000 in profit. I mean, this is incredible, and that's at the current electricity rate of 26.56 cents per kilowatt hour. So let me back it out. I would encourage you to play with these scenarios. You can adjust the percent increase of the electricity price if you want to, and go for it. Knock yourselves out. Okay. Let's see here. Close this. Doing pretty good. So my takeaway from all of this examination of heating and cooling is one simple fact. There's really only one takeaway. Get on the phone and get a quote to install solar panels on your home as soon as you can. Don't wait. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable the benefit that you get. Take out a home equity loan. I mean, how many of you have bought cars that are $50,000 and they depreciate immediately? Well, spend a little money on a solar system and it makes you a profit. It's unbelievable. Not having the IRA 30% credit increases the break even by 3 years over 25-year lifespan. Who cares? Big deal. This is the most sound economic decision I can possibly think of. All right, enough of my opinions. Any questions? That was a long segment. Any questions that you might have? Critical questions. Okay. All right, let's move on. Now, property values. I'm going to add some spice to this cake, okay? Lori Dietrich is not here. She lives in Penfield. She's a member of the Penfield Rotary. She spoke to us in January when we did this class. She's a licensed associate real estate broker. She knows her stuff. She spent weeks researching what would happen to property values if you put geothermal or solar in your system. Okay? So what's happening is a capital improvement. Geothermal and solar systems are capital improvements. They're permanent. They're not routine maintenance. They count as capital improvements. Number two, geothermal. All the research that she did pointed to the fact that installing a geothermal system improves the resale value of your home by 3 to 5%. So if you have a $500,000 home, you're going to get a 15 to 25,000 added. That pays for your damn solar system right there. That one improvement. Same thing with solar, 5% increase from the research that she did. Pay for your solar you put a new kitchen in for $70,000. That increases the value of your home by $75,000. I mean, it's the same thing. Put a geothermal system in, put a solar system in, you've increased. That's an asset that goes onto your net worth statement that improves your net worth, allows you to borrow more money. And what's happening now with the incredible increase in natural gas and electricity prices, there are going to be more people flocking to our area, climate safe people looking for climate safe areas. And when they find a home with geothermal or solar, you're going to be having people fight to buy your home because they're eco-conscious buyers. So it's a strong, strong case to be made to install geothermal and solar just from property value increase. You can never go wrong making these smart choices. Any questions on that?
We do have a couple of questions from the previous section, actually, that
Sure.
came up in the chat.
Yep. Go ahead.
On your calculator, does your solar panel no incentives scenario include any New York incentives?
I think it did not. I'd have to double check that, but you can download it and see. You can look at the formula. I believe it did not include the New York.
Okay, good to know. Another person is curious about the humidity changes with a heat pump. We do tend to have high humidity in this area. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, what happens in winter, let's talk about winter only, not summer. Summer's different because air conditioning is going to be removing moisture from the air inside the house. Your air conditioning system, whether it's a geothermal or normal, it's going to reduce it. But in winter, what happens is you get too dry. With natural gas, the air temperature coming out of the heat runs is much higher. So, the blooming effect of a natural gas where it comes on and you feel too warm, it warms up the air. and it dries out the air, and then it gets cooler, and then it cycles again and turns on. You get warm and you get cool. You go through a bigger cycle of temperature differential. However, with a heat pump, it runs literally. My geothermal system runs 22 hours a day in the winter, so it's an even temperature, much more even humidity, and it never exceeds 90 degrees at the outlet at the vent. So it ranges between 78 and 90 degrees all day long, keeping the temperature even, not drying out the internal home air as much. So it's easier. Easier to stay within a good humidity range with a geothermal or air source system. Hopefully that answers the question.
That's helpful. Thanks. A couple more. What do you, this is a, oh, good question, Joanne. What do you recommend installing first, solar or heat pump?
Um, Basically, the first thing you're ever going to do is go to AMP to get an audit. Okay. Then you're going to and I'll talk about that in a minute. Then you're going to weatherize your home. Then, once you know your usage after you've insulated, air sealed, once you know how much you're using, then you can start to size your heat pump system properly. This is AMPED. AMPED has energy advisors that will take you through this entire process. And I think you really don't, the last thing you're going to do is solar, which is what I did because now I know the exact usage I need to cover, how many panels I need. They can estimate the sun direction over my house. Is it east, west, south, etc. So I actually solar panels kind of come last in the process for me. Hopefully that answered the question. You need to know how much you're using and you need to clamp down on the weatherization of your house. Any
And
other
then,
questions?
did you include the cost for Critter Guard for solar? Oh, I'm sorry,
For
George. My panels have been ruined 3 times by squirrels.
Yes, well, the one you're going to download, the solar example is includes squirrel guards. $1,200 I paid for squirrel guards. Amen. Yes, absolutely. I did that. I agree completely. I don't want them chewing my microinverter wires. So I put in squirrel guard. Yes, yes, yes. It includes the price. Okay. All right, let's
Uh,
finish up quickly.
sorry,
Any
one last question. I Carl did energy survey in Weatherwise House 2 years ago. How can he get past information from that work?
Wait, say again now?
Yeah, sorry, I misread that. Carl did an energy survey and weatherwised his house 2 years ago, and he's wondering how he can get past information from that work.
Don't know. Amped might know. Katie, Amped might know how to
The
do that.
contractors, yeah, the contractors you worked with at the time should have some of that information. If you're looking for like energy usage to use like with the calculators, you can get that from like utility bills and um, but yeah, if you could maybe clarify like what information specifically you're looking for.
Or have it done again. Okay. So moving on. I am not going to open up this calculator because I want to finish. What I'm going to do, this is the calculator showing a natural gas hot water heater versus a heat pump hot water heater. And I'm just going to jump to the conclusions, guys. There's a $1,250 rebate from New York State. Thank you, New York. And what it does is, actually, I'm going to go back because I do want to show you the very um, first tab, the price. You could go tomorrow and buy a Ream. This is the one I have in my basement. I love it, love it, love it. For 1889, you could buy a Ream heat pump hot water heater. For 899, the same size 50-gallon Ream Performance Platinum. They're both Performance Platinum. Remember, comparable items. 1250 means the price of the heat pump is less than less than the gas furnace. All right. So the actual ROI, it's very, 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 very close right out of the box. It's a no-brainer. My conclusion is very simple, folks. Get out there. If you need to replace your gas hot water heater, don't you dare replace it with another gas hot water heater. This is one for one direct transfer by the ream or whatever brand you want to buy, but buy the heat pump hot water heater one for one instantly. Do that. Okay, finally, weatherization work. I don't know if I can even, I'm not going to even cover this. Let me just go right to the conclusions, folks. This is the most difficult I have not yet built a calculator for weatherization. I'm working on it because it's very, very, very challenging. But here are the results that I've found. Okay, I had Wise Home Energy come in May 2nd, 2022. The project cost $10,000. I had a $2,500 New York State rebate. Thank you, New York. $7,600. I calculated about an 18% savings year over year. And at that time, I was paying about 14.8 cents per kilowatt hour. Oh, the days of 15-cent kilowatt hours. So the payback is 61 years. Ouch, ouch, that hurts. Now, at today's prices, 26.56, it's 30, it's coming down. As electricity goes up, the weatherization paybacks decline. But still, here's my opinion. Always get your survey from, go to AMPED, get a person to help you do an audit of your energy audit, pay for the weatherization. There is money right now to help you pay down the cost of your weatherization. Use it to help you right size the heat pump system that you're going to put in, air source or geothermal. That's my I every time I've had work done, I've been more comfortable in my home as a result of doing that work. Reducing the air infiltration is awesome. Weatherization I view now as similar to, like, if you're going to put solar panels on, you might have to add in a new roof. Well, you know why? Because you don't want to have to take the panels off in a couple of years to replace the roof. So it's a structural improvement that you're going to do before you do that wonderful clean energy heat pump system. That's just how I view it right now. I've never found a return on investment higher than between 10 and 20% every time I've calculated a weatherization ROI. But the reason to do it is comfort, comfort, comfort. And you are actually reducing upwards of 20%, up to 20% reduction in your actual energy usage. Doesn't pay back always, but it makes your life much better. Okay, so you can download these calculators. If you find errors, let me know. Please email me. Um, get to AMPED as quick as you can here, folks. Okay, if you haven't done these projects, get an energy advisor, scan that code. You're going to have all of these slides. And I want you to answer the question now. I'm going to take you back to Vivox. Let's have you now answer that same identical question. Let me get to it. Yep. Okay, let's go to full screen. And before we started this, about 2/3 of you were somewhat hopeful. So let's go and see where you are right now. Okay, that is dramatic. We went from 2/3 of you being somewhat hopeful to 2/3 of you now being hopeful and 16% of you being extremely hopeful. So I think that is just excellent. That is just excellent. So cool. Let me finish up with my last slide here, folks. Any final questions before we wind this up? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me today and help me make these calculators better. Turning it back to you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Al, for all your work on this. Very, very helpful information. Just so everyone knows, I did put this in the chat, but as soon as this recording is available, I will be sending this out to everyone who was on the call, as well as everyone who registered, and we're going to be sharing this out on our social channels. So you will have a copy of the slides, this recording, and also those tools that Al was going over during the presentation. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Huge thank you to Al. And feel free to reach out to AMPED with any questions. And take care. Have a good day.